In 1956 Chicago, Mark Rylance's Leonard Burling runs a quiet bespoke shop on a street that only appears quiet. Leonard is English, Savile Row trained, precise to a degree that borders on clinical. He opens the film with a voiceover about what it takes to make a truly great suit, and it becomes clear very quickly that he is not really talking about suits. The first step is measurement, not tape and numbers, but understanding. A man walks through your door, and before you cut a single thread, you must understand who he is, what he projects, and most importantly, what he is hiding underneath. Leonard has been reading people this way for decades. He is extraordinary at it. Anyone who wanders into this shop and calls him a tailor gets a correction so quiet it leaves a mark. A tailor, he explains, sews buttons and hems trousers. Anyone with a needle and 15 minutes can call themselves a tailor. He spent years apprenticing on Savile Row before they allowed him to open his own shop. He is a cutter. There is a difference. He will tell you exactly once, and you will not forget it. His assistant is Zoe Deutsch's Mabel Shawn, young, sharp, and completely finished with Chicago. She keeps snow globes of cities she has never visited: London, Paris, Barcelona, Morocco. She tells Leonard she is going to all of them someday. He asks what is wrong with here. She says she can think of a few things. She also asks for a raise, which he declines until she learns what a properly folded square looks like. Some men have all the warmth of a measuring tape. The shop's most regular customers are the Boyle family, an Irish mob organization that controls the neighborhood and its money. Simon Russell Beale's Roy Boyle is the patriarch, a man who has built loyalty and a crew and a neighborhood the same way Leonard builds suits, which is to say with tools that would frighten most people. His son Richie, played by Dylan O'Brien, is the family's second in command in title, if not always in temperament. Then there is Johnny Flynn's Francis, Roy's enforcer. Not family by blood, but bound tighter than blood, because Roy once pulled him off the street after Francis absorbed 6 bullets to save Roy's life. That debt is everything Francis has ever been. The Boyles used Leonard's mailbox as a dead drop for messages from a shadowy national organization called the Outwit, Al Capone's network, reorganized after his death, now operating across the entire country. Roy is close to formal acceptance into it. He just needs to win his war against the rival La Fontaine organization first. Leonard has never once asked about any of this. He folds his cloth. He polishes his shears. He looks the other way. He is a simple craftsman operating in a very dangerous neighborhood who has absolutely no involvement in organized crime whatsoever. Right. Sure. Of course. One evening, Richie and Mabel sneak into the shop after closing, convinced Leonard is asleep at his desk. He is completely awake. He hears every word. Richie venting about Francis, about Roy trusting this outsider above his own son, about Francis's growing certainty that a rat inside the Boyle family is feeding information to the La Fontaines. Richie is furious and also scared, which is the more useful detail. Leonard lies perfectly still in the dark and files every word away. The British capacity for appearing unconscious while remaining entirely operational is a deeply underappreciated gift. Days pass. Then one night, everything breaks at once. Francis crashes through the door carrying a bleeding Richie, shot in the stomach during a La Fontaine ambush. He also has a briefcase containing a copy of an FBI wiretap recording that, if played, will name the rat inside the Boyle family. Francis leaves immediately to find a machine to play it. Leonard is now alone with a wounded Richie Boyle, a federal recording, and a situation that no amount of Savile Row training covers. Most people in this position start crying. Leonard goes to find his needle and thread. He stitches Richie's stomach shut using tailoring tools and whatever wartime knowledge he carries from, as he puts it, the other war. Without anesthesia, without apology. Richie passes out mid-scream and wakes up with an entirely new understanding of why precision matters in any skilled profession. When Richie comes around, Leonard sits beside him and they talk. Richie remembers the day Roy first came to this shop. Came home telling the family there was an English tailor in the neighborhood. Roy taught Richie to tie a tie when he was 4 years old. Said a well-tied tie was the first serious step in life. Leonard mentions that is Oscar Wilde. Richie has never heard of Oscar Wilde, which tracks. What matters is the warmth that opens between them, and Leonard uses that warmth like a scalpel. He asks gently who Richie suspects might be the rat. Someone close to the family, he suggests, but not quite family. Richie's suspicions shift without him noticing they have been shifted. Masterful, invisible, terrifying. Then, from nowhere, Leonard tells Richie he himself is the rat. He says he has been selling information to their enemies and allowed the FBI to plant a bug inside this shop. Richie stares at him for a long moment, then erupts laughing. An English tailor. The rat. The absolute audacity of the joke. Leonard laughs along. He does not laugh quite as hard. Francis returns. Before he can speak, Leonard informs him quietly that Richie has been going through the briefcase. One sentence, placed exactly right. Within minutes, the two men are in a full confrontation. Richie demanding to know why Francis wants to take the tape alone without Roy present. Francis calling Richie weak. Richie drawing his gun. The tape itself is gone from the briefcase because Leonard moved it, though nobody has pieced that together yet. The argument was always going to end one way. Francis shoots Richie dead. In a tailor shop, on a cutting table. Not what that surface was designed for, though it has seen worse things tonight. Francis panics. He needs the body hidden and the blood scrubbed before Roy arrives. Leonard helps. Roy walks in from his own violent evening and immediately asks where Richie is. Both men lie. They say Richie walked out to confront the LaFontaines on his own, did not want to be stopped. Roy listens. Then his eyes settle on something hanging by the door. Richie's coat. In December. In Chicago. Roy goes very still. He says, "Who walks out into the cold in December in Chicago without his coat?" Roy Boyle did not survive this long in this business by missing details like coats. He pulls a gun on Leonard. Right at this moment, Francis walks back in hauling Mabel, dragged from her apartment in the middle of the night. Francis says he found blood on her carpet. He accuses her of being the family informant. Roy redirects toward Mabel. Francis begins striking her for answers while Leonard tries to physically pull him back. Roy blocks him. And then Leonard stops performing and tells them something true. He says he did not come to Chicago because of blue jeans, which has always been his explanation. There was a fire in his shop on Savile Row. His wife and his daughter lived above it. He says he heard them. He says his shears were a gift from his wife. That is all. The violence in the room stops. Roy Boyle, who has built everything on loyalty and on the idea that certain losses cannot be absorbed, hears this and goes quiet. The phone rings. Leonard answers it. He invents a son. He tells Roy that Richie is hiding at 31st and Halstead waiting for pickup, safe. Roy gathers his men and leaves to find him. Francis stays behind to watch Leonard and Mabel. Roy Boyle is walking directly into a LaFontaine ambush. He has no idea. Francis demands to know who was on that phone, and Leonard begins the real accounting. He tells Francis that Mabel is the rat. She had been involved with Richie, gathered information through that relationship, and sold it to the LaFontaines for money to fund her exit from Chicago. When the Boyles discovered the FBI bug, Mabel escalated, tipping the LaFontaines directly, betting that both sides would eliminate each other before anyone traced it back to her. Francis is furious. Mabel looks at him from across the room and says, "You got your hustle, I got mine." The delivery of that line from a position of that much personal danger is genuinely impressive. Leonard then presents Francis with a choice that only looks like one. Roy is about to die. Loyalty to a dead man ends the same way. Or Mabel calls Violet LaFontaine, offers to sell the tape, and Francis walks out of this night as head of the Boyle organization with a straight path into the outfit. Francis has been loyal to Roy his entire adult life. Every act of violence, every year of service built in Roy's name. Leonard is asking him to lay it down in the next 90 seconds. Francis agrees. It costs him something visible. Mabel calls. Nikki Amuka Bird's Violet LaFontaine arrives at the shop, composed and tired in equal measure. A woman who has been running numbers in this city her whole life and underestimated at every step. She wants the tape. Mabel wants the money. They negotiate. Francis is hiding in the back with his gun, intending to kill Violet the moment Mabel signals the count is right. A tidy solution for the Boyle side of this war. Except at some point earlier this evening, between one catastrophe and the next, Leonard quietly removed every single bullet from Francis's gun. Of all the quietly devastating things this man has done in the last several hours, this one is the most purely Leonard about it. He warns Violet directly. Her men shoot Francis and leave him on the floor. She takes the tape, pays Mabel, and walks out. Roy Boyle is dead in the street. The LaFontaine organization will be next, courtesy of the FBI. Leonard stands at the center of his gutted shop and waits for Mabel to finish counting the money. Then he tells her everything. The outfit messages that Roy received for months, building his war fever, pushing him toward the LaFontaines. Leonard wrote everyone. The actual outfit syndicate has no knowledge of Roy Boyle's existence. Leonard knew about Mabel's arrangement from the beginning. He knew about the bug. The tape Violet just left with is a fake. Leonard narrating fabric construction into a recorder. The real tape has been running inside this shop all night and captured every confession, every killing, every deal spoken aloud in this room. He hands Mabel the real recording to mail to her FBI contact. He tells her to take LaFontaine's money and go somewhere grand. She asks him to come with her. He declines. She says goodbye and means the whole thing. Leonard starts dousing the shop. He has started over before. Francis, who should be finished, is not finished. He fires at Leonard and catches him in the shoulder before his gun jams. He pulls a knife. And Leonard does the one thing this entire film has been building toward without announcing itself. He rolls both sleeves up. The arms underneath are covered in tattoos that have nothing to do with tailoring. He tells Francis he was like him once. He made his living with a gun, a knife, sometimes just his hands. One day his organization asked him to do something he could not do. He ran. He hid on Savile Row. He learned to cut cloth. He met his wife Vera. They had a daughter named Lily. His old life found him and burned the shop down with Vera and Lily inside. He came to Chicago on the first day of his new life, and the first person through his door was Roy Boyle. He has spent every year since putting on beautiful clothes to convince himself he is civilized. He wanted so badly, he says, to be good. He walks to the door wearing a suit he has been quietly assembling for himself throughout this entire film. The film was directed by Graham Moore, the Academy Award-winning screenwriter of The Imitation Game, in his feature directorial debut, which is a remarkable first film for anyone regardless of circumstance. It was produced by Film Nation Entertainment and distributed by Focus Features, premiering at the 72nd Berlin International Film Festival before its U.S. theatrical release on March 18, 2022. Alexandra Desplat composed the score, and fashion designer Zach Posen collaborated on the period costumes alongside the production team. The film earned 86% on Rotten Tomatoes and 69% on Metacritic. Against an estimated $5 million budget, it collected just over $4 million worldwide, according to Box Office Mojo. A film about a man who does his best work when no one is paying attention, seen by fewer people than it deserved, and built to last considerably longer than its box office suggested.